Hi, thanks for tuning in to this recording of our latest Chamber Chat session. This session was all about recruitment and retention of the workforce. We were joined by Tanya Heath with Team Grow NL and Karina Walsh of Shift People Development. We also had Carole Spicer leading this session. So I hope you enjoy this recording. If you're interested in any of our live events, you can find them listed at cbachamber.com/events. Thanks for watching.
I'm the owner of Spicer Facilitation and Learning. And I guess I did an okay job last month because they asked me to come back for this month. So happy to be here once again to take us through our chamber chat. So a couple logistics things, and I'm going to ask participants to hover your mouse down the bottom of Zoom. If you haven't been on it before, is where you find participants and chat. If you just want to click on the chat and type over in chat and let us know what community you're joining from, except for you, Mark, you're driving, so be safe. Um, we won't have you use the chat while you're driving. But if you could just type over and say just a quick hello, and that'll help me know that you've been able to find the chat. And you can certainly use that for questions and conversations throughout the session as well. For those with webcams on, it's up to you. I certainly leave it to your discretion if you want to leave them on or off. I know myself, I'm coming to you from Pasadena on the West Coast, and sometimes my internet will get impacted if my webcam's on. So while our guest speakers are speaking, I may be turning mine off, and feel free to do that with yours as well if you need to. Um, don't worry about cats and pets and budgie birds and partners and parents and all that coming in and out of your screen. It's the life and the reality of what we're in. We're here to have an informal chat this morning, so just relax and enjoy. So I'd like to do a brief land acknowledgement as we start. As I mentioned, I'm in Pasadena, which is on the unceded territory of the Beothuk, and I ask that you take a moment to reflect on the lands that you're joining us from, recognizing the Indigenous folks in our province, including the Mi'kmaq, Innu, and Inuit, and there may be some others that I'm unaware of, but those are the ones I know of. So just ask you to take a moment to reflect on that as well. So yes, we do have two speakers this morning, and I think this is an awesome tag team. We've got Tanya Heath, who is with Team Grow NL, and Karina Walsh, who's with Shift People Development. And when I was talking to them earlier, and we were planning at the session, I said, okay, this is really cool, because Tanya's going to tell us how to get them, and Karina's going to tell us how to keep them. So when it comes to human resources, I think this is going to be a really interesting conversation, and I think it's going to really complement the discussion here this morning. So each of these ladies are going to tell a little bit more about themselves and what they're here about, and they're going to both have a short presentation. And after the presentation, we're going to open it up to questions and answers. If you have questions as they're presenting, I know they're quite flexible to take a question as needed. You can either raise your hand if you click on the participants, it'll give you some status options, or you can type in chat. And between myself and Heather, we'll monitor that and let Tanya and Karina know if there's something in there. Or you can keep it to the end, and we're going to have a much more open dialogue at the end as well. And then what we'd like to do is provide everyone an opportunity to do a bit of networking. So tell us who you are, what's going on in your organization, what's coming up, anything we should know about. So that's kind of the logistics, very briefly on how we're going to roll today. And if there's something else you want us to do, we're open to adjusting that. So in order to assist our presenters, we have a little quick poll for you that Heather's going to pull up. We'd like you to let us know, what organization are you representing? And so you should have a poll coming up just in front of you now, just a radio button. Do you work for a small business or not for profit? Are you community support agency? Do you work for a corporation, government? Are you an entrepreneur or other? And Mark, for safety, if you want to open up and let us know, we can get Heather to vote for you or something like that. I'm taking by your picture, I'm making an assumption you're an entrepreneur, but I didn't want to assume that. All right, so Karina and Tanya, I think you can see that, what you have in front of you. Okay. All right, so Miss Tanya, you're up first. If you want to share up your presentation, I'm going to take off my video in the meantime, just to keep my stability. and we'll let you go.
All right, let me pull up my presentation. Also, my internet was a little bit finicky this morning too, so I apologize if I freeze at any point. Hopefully that doesn't happen. All right, so can we all see that? Yes,
yep.
We have thumbs up. We have thumbs up. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Tanya Heath, and I work for an organization called Team Grow NL. This is a relatively new organization. It's just about a year old now, and it has been slightly affected by the pandemic. So we're kind of readjusting how we're going to be moving forward. But the presentation today will give you a little bit more information about what Team Grow does, how it could help your business in regards to recruitment, and if you're having trouble hiring locally, what your other options are. So I'll get started now with a poll. So I'm just curious to hear from you about if you have any challenges regarding hiring talent in the province. So I think Heather is going to set that up. So that'll give me a little bit of a better idea of who I'm working with and if you've had any challenges in the past. So I'll give you a moment there, and then I'll move on. So while you're doing that, I'll just move on to just an introduction to the project. So basically, why is there a need for this program? Well, the province needs to increase immigration to meet its skills and labor force requirements and to contribute to our economic growth and prosperity. The industry requires skilled workers, and it's no secret that we're having trouble in Newfoundland and Labrador finding that talent locally. And there's also a need for more proactive engagement within the industry. So it was just recognized that there needed to be a resource on the ground in Newfoundland and Labrador, speaking directly to organizations about immigration, what's out there, what their challenges are, because when the topic of immigration comes about, there's so much to it, and small businesses especially can get really just bogged down with all of the information that exists, and it's really hard to navigate that. So one of the reasons, okay, so we have a few people that have had challenges. So this presentation will be great for you. So yeah, I will go on to the next slide. This is the background of how this program was created. So this was created through discussions throughout 2018 with partners. The Atlantic Growth Strategy outlined immigration being one of its top priorities. So this led to discussions with industry and the realization that there needed to be someone more proactive, like I just said, as a support to let companies know about the programming that there is out there. So this program is funded by ACOA and the government of Newfoundland and Labrador, and it is developed in partnership with industry associations. So that could be anything from NIA to NATI or now Tech NL, and other industry associations like that. So everybody has kind of had a say with what they want from this organization, and I work with those industry associations to kind of provide the solutions that they're looking for. So what this project includes, so a little bit about my role and what I could do for the businesses that are out there that are looking for information like this. I do one-on-one engagement with businesses. So I will meet one-on-one with you now virtually to bring more awareness about the existing immigration programs in the province. Also international recruitment events and expat events throughout North America. So during COVID, the program had to shift a little bit. The government in Newfoundland and Labrador did provide funding for international recruitment events. Obviously right now, those events aren't being held, but they will again in the future. And also another piece of this project is to attract expatriate Newfoundlander and Labradorians back to the province that may have moved away after graduating. So there have been events in the past where I would travel with Memorial University and go to their expat events and just speak directly one-on-one with the expats that have been a part of those events to see if they would ever consider moving back home. And also to let them know directly about the job vacancies that are available here. Because not a lot of people know that there are jobs here, especially high-skilled jobs, especially in the tech industry. So that's a little bit, a lot of the information I provide these people. So moving on, this is just another slide on the objectives. So I help firms address their immediate HR needs through skilled immigrant labor. We create a broader awareness of support available to the private sector to assist in acquiring and retaining skilled immigration labor. We increase the take-up of the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program, which I will talk about in a little bit. And we help firms address HR needs by connecting with expatriate Newfoundlander and Labradorians, like I just said. So I think we're going to pull up another poll, just a quick one. I'm just curious about how many people on the call have heard of the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program before this. And if not, I'll be diving a little bit into the details today, but that is one of the programs that we really do focus on. Okay, so a lot of people have not. So, but I'm happy to see that somebody on the call has. Okay, so that's great. So the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program, so the AIP, this is an employer-driven immigration program. It's aimed at addressing skill gaps in labor market needs in the Atlantic provinces by assisting employers in attracting and retaining skilled immigrants. So this program was initially launched in 2017 as a 3-year pilot, but the program will be extended, or has been extended by 2 years to December 2021. So this will give the IRCC, which is the Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, and the Atlantic provinces more time to assess the innovative aspects of this pilot. So the employer-driven focus, the mandatory settlement plan, and just the new model of partnership with the Atlantic provinces and ACOA. So to participate in the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program, employers must meet just a few requirements, and they're pretty simple. To be designated, let me see. Okay, so yeah, the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program, it has 3 categories. So it's high skilled, intermediate skilled, and international graduate. So before you can make a job offer and hire a candidate, you must be designated by the provincial government of the Atlantic province where the candidate will be working. So being designated just means that you can offer jobs under the AIP, and each province handles the designation. And to be designated, your organization must be in good standing. It must have been operating in the Atlantic region for at least 2 years, and this is an important part of it. You must commit to work with a settlement service provider organization to help your candidates get settlement services. So I know in Newfoundland and Labrador, it's the Association for New Canadians. So we work closely with them to help employers get that settlement program up and running, to make the transition as smooth as possible for their new hire. Because it's not all about getting the worker, and this is what Karina will talk about in a little bit, but it's about keeping them too. So when we have that settlement program in place, it really helps with that transition and that process. Yeah, so if you meet these criteria, you can apply to the province to become designated. There's no cost to become designated, and you can apply even before you get a candidate. And in that case, you will show up on the government website under designated employers, which is great, because if there are workers looking for a job in Newfoundland and Labrador, they can come to the government website, kind of look through that list of designated employers, and go from there, see if anything interests them, and target one of those companies, which could be one of yours. So once you make a job offer to the candidate, you and them will work through several steps. If you and the candidate meet all the requirements, the candidate gets permanent residency in Canada. So easy as that, right? I will say during COVID, things have changed a little bit. Processing times have increased just a little bit, but the AIP remains to be the fastest immigration program that's available right now. So, and it's completely free. And not a lot of people know that. So you can apply to become designated for free. This program is absolutely free to you. And it's one of the fastest programs. So that is a huge benefit to you as an employer. So moving on now from the immigration piece, Team Grow and L actually does it's a relatively new series called Ask an Expert series. So Ask an Expert is a webinar series. It's created by Team Grow and L and Connect a L with the St. John's Board of Trade. And this allows industry experts and employers to engage with job seekers that are interested in working in various sectors of Newfoundland and Labrador. So these are 1-hour sessions, quite like this one. It consists of a presentation by an industry expert, a presentation by a local employer, and a question and answer period between these experts and the job seekers that have registered. So when we talk about an industry expert, we are talking about someone who's familiar with the provincial industry as a whole, ideally someone from an industry association. The role of the industry expert is to provide the participants with information about the provincial industry. So they go through things like industry outlooks, types of jobs available, and what type of education or work experience is required, expected or typical salaries, career advancements, opportunities for growth, current or upcoming opportunities. And the local employer, we call this kind of just like a champion in the business. So any business owner or representative from a local business who can speak to the job seekers about the realities and the day-to-day of employment in the province. So ideally a company who is hiring or will be hiring in the future. And the role of the local employer on these calls is just to provide insights into the day-to-day working in the local industry. And they discuss things like overview of the day-to-day education and work experience required, career advancement opportunities, and the advantages of working in Newfoundland and Labrador. And the job seekers we target for these, it's just anyone who's interested in working in the specific industry within Newfoundland and Labrador. So Connector NL and Team Grow NL, we use our networks to bring Ask an Expert series to the attention of local job seekers. So whether that be new grads or local residents, also newcomers, so immigrants or Canadians from other provinces, and expatriates looking to return to Newfoundland after moving abroad. So these sessions are promoted across the province as well as across the country. So previous sessions included a focus on the tech industry, environmental and clean tech industry, and the aquaculture industry. So they went over very well. And the job seekers that were on the calls were very engaged, which was really nice to see. So we do have next sessions coming up with the Atlantic Canada Aerospace and Defense industry. That's on November 17th. And we also have a session set up with CPA&L, and that's on November 19th. So if anybody is interested in joining any of those calls, any of those sessions, you can find the registration link online, or you can reach out to me. I can get you set up with the registration. And I will have my contact information on a slide in just a few moments. But lastly, that's kind of it for me. If anybody is interested in using the services of Team Grow NL, you can reach out to me. I'd love to meet one-on-one or I guess a Zoom call one-on-one with you to chat about the challenges you've been having. If you're interested in hiring talent outside of Newfoundland and Labrador, I can definitely get you, help set you up with the correct contacts and just that information that you may need to start you off. So yeah, I just have a last poll, and that is if you would consider hiring talent outside of Newfoundland and Labrador through a program quite like the AIP. So let me know, yes, and maybe. I like those answers. Those are great answers. So if you are one of those people that said yes, or maybe you should contact me and we can chat a little bit further about what your needs are, and I can help set you up with the information that you need. So that's it for me. Here's my contact information. You can email me whenever, and that's our social media handle, and you can visit our website for more information. But that's it for me. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you, Tanya. We'll give you a little on the reactions. If you want to give her clap hands, you can hover at the bottom and clap
Oh,
hands for
that's
her.
so nice. Thank you.
I got a bunch of questions coming to my mind, but I'll leave it to some of the participants jumping in. But one, and maybe this is something you can pull for us later, but we'll go to Karina next. Tanya, is how many people have come through the program successfully? I think that'd be interesting to know.
That's a good question, and it's an answer that I'm actually not even sure of. But I know there have been many success stories in Newfoundland and Labrador. Connector NL has highlighted some of those, and actually we're going to readjust the Ask an Expert session, and it's going to start including organizations and businesses and employers that have used the AIP, and we're going to have them come on for sessions to go through their experience, just their real lived experience with the AIP, and highlight how it's worked for them, gaining that high-skilled talent. So yeah, if anyone on the call is interested in something like that, those will be happening quite soon.
Oh, thank you. All right, let's turn it over to Karina. So Tanya's told you where you can go to get them. Karina's going to tell us in this current environment, what are employees looking for? How are you going to keep them?
Thank you so much, Carole. So that's, I've just shared my screen. So maybe just Heather can give me a thumbs up, and Carole, if you guys can see it. Awesome, perfect. So that was a really fantastic informational session from Tanya about how to recruit some skilled talent if you need it. And regardless of where you're hiring from, whether you're hiring someone who's already here or you're relying on people coming in from somewhere else, you need to understand how to keep your employees, because there's a cost associated with recruiting and hiring employees. There's always a cost associated with it. And you want to make sure that if you're putting in that energy to try to bring in some skilled talent into your company or your organization, you need to know how to keep them. So let's talk about that right now. So before I kind of answer the question here about what's on the screen, just to give you a little more information about me, I am a certified professional coach. So I do leadership coaching with business owners, with managers in a one-on-one format. And then when I'm not working one-on-one with individuals, I'm doing group sessions to help managers build up their management and leadership skills so that they can lead their teams effectively. And I'll come back to that point in just a minute about why that's so important. And I'm also do a lot of work around employee engagement and workplace culture. And I'll also tell you why that's really important in my second slide here. But the first thing that I always encourage my clients to think about in terms of trying to hold on to the employees that you have, as well as attract more, is understanding what your employees actually want from an employer right now. And that has changed quite a bit over the past 10 years, and it's going to change again in 5 years and in another 5 years. Essentially, anytime there's a new generation coming into our workplace, some of their expectations change and some of their needs and wants change. And so what we know right now from the research, and of course what I know from working with my clients, is that some of the things that are important to employees right now are flexibility, having that flexibility to maybe work from home if that's possible for the type of job that they have, flexibility in even just having some flex time and a schedule that works for their lifestyle right now. Career advancement is very important, especially to a younger generation. Having a positive workplace culture and receiving recognition at work are some of the top key things that employees want from an employer right now. And one of the biggest mistakes that businesses and business owners make is that they try to guess or they make assumptions about what their employees want. So the process that I use with my clients is that if you're trying to understand what your employees want from you as an employer, the best thing you can do is ask them. Don't guess. Don't make assumptions, but actually ask your employees what's important to them right now about their career, about their work, and what do they want from their employer. And that might sound really daunting, but there's actually a super simple process that I give to my clients to use to ask their employees what they want. And you can do a simple 2 or 3 question survey using free software like SurveyMonkey or Typeform. And there's some really amazing software out there right now called 15Five. And many of my clients are actually using 15Five to do these little pulse surveys, these little 2-question surveys that they're doing on a regular basis to engage their employees and ask them what it is they want, from their employer, from their manager right now. So that's kind of rule number 1, is that when you're trying to figure out what it is your employees want, to go ahead and ask them. And you don't even have to use survey software if you don't want to. If your business is small enough, you could just be having those one-on-one conversations with your employees to ask them what's important to them and what it is that they want. So that's a key strategy that I advise all my clients to work on. What I will also add here is that over the past, we're all aware of what we're going through right now related to the pandemic. And what employees wanted from an employer last year is now very different from what employees want from their employer this year, okay? We're all under a tremendous amount of uncertainty, trying to operate under uncertainty and dealing with a lot of stress related to the pandemic. And so back in April, when companies started realizing they had to adjust and adapt, I started getting a lot of calls from my clients saying, now our employees have a whole new set of expectations for us, and we can see that employees need something different from us. And I was trying to help my clients open up those lines of communication with their employees to figure out, how we're going to get through this and what it is employees even need right now from their employer. And of course, it was a shift in some cases. For some of my clients, it wasn't that big a shift because they already had a very supportive workplace culture. But for some other of my clients, it was a little bit of a shift. They had to have even more empathy in their leadership style than they ever had before, because of their employees were trying to maybe adjust to working from home, or the children were home with them now because schools were closed. So it was an adjustment in how you lead and manage your business for sure. And employees definitely changed their expectations about what their employer was going to do for them during this very stressful time. So key number 1, make sure you're asking employees, always checking in with them, asking them what they want from their employer. And of course, the only other caveat there, I guess, is that if you're going to do those surveys, whether you do pulse surveys or larger engagement surveys, make sure you're willing to actually act on the results, right? We can't engage employees and ask them what they want and give them a survey if we're not willing to actually do whatever it is they say in that survey that they say they want. So just another key point there related to that. So what I want to talk about now are 3 core issues that impact employee retention. And these are the things that I'm constantly working on with my clients. The first thing I want to talk about is an employee's relationship with their manager. So what we know is that an employee's relationship with their manager accounts for at least 70% of the variance in employee engagement. What that means in basic terms, an employee's relationship with their manager has the biggest impact on whether or not an employee feels engaged and therefore is more likely to stay with a company, okay? So what does that mean for you as a business or as a government organization or community-based organization? It means several things. Managers really need to understand employee engagement, what it takes nowadays to engage employees, how to ask employees what it is they want from their manager and from their employer to understand those expectations. It also means that managers really need management and leadership development, okay? So one of my core programs is about helping managers get those core leadership skills, those supervisory skills so that they understand how to lead a team. And what I know from the work that I do, that when there's a manager or an executive who doesn't have those core leadership skills in leading a team, it tends to be pretty frustrating for the employees on that team. And you wouldn't want to lose an employee simply because there's a manager who doesn't quite have the skills that you need to engage and lead a team. So making sure that you're always investing in that management and leadership development. And there are programs available to help with the cost of that. And I've helped several of my clients get funding related to that as well. So if you want to know about that, I'm happy to have a different call later on to talk about that type of funding. So that's key, making sure that your managers understand how to lead and engage a team. It's going to be critical in your ability to keep the employees you have But it's also critical in attracting new employees, because think of the way our world is today. Everyone's connected. And when someone's looking for a new job, they're going to see if they know anyone who works there. And they're going to go out and ask them, what's it like to work there? And what's their workplace culture like? And I'll come back to this point in a minute. But so you want your employees to be happy and engaged, because they're going to be your ambassadors. They're going to be the ones that are going to go out and say, this is an excellent place to work. You should come work with us. And I'm thinking that Tanya probably has, in her Ask an Expert series, those are probably the kind of stories that everyone's sharing, right, about what it's like to work at this place. So think about that. And those leadership skills are critical for making sure that employees are engaged. The second core issue or core aspect I want you to think about in terms of retention, and this one's going to come as a little bit of a hard truth. This is one that some of my clients really didn't want to hear, but it was something they needed to hear. Any issues that you had before the pandemic related to managing your business or attracting really high skilled talent, any issues that you had before the pandemic are likely amplified during a time of stress or during a pandemic. And again, it's a bit of a hard truth, and I recognize that it might be difficult for some people to hear. But there's no point in thinking that the issues that you're having right now are just related to the pandemic. With several of my clients, I had to point out to them that, I appreciate that things are amplified right now, but these are the same issues that I was trying to help you work on before the pandemic even started. So whatever you're noticing related to an employee's relationship with their manager, whatever you're noticing related to engagement and retention, there's a chance that some of those issues were there before, and I encourage you to get working on them now. And I know that maybe resources are a little bit strained right now, and we all have a lot on our plates trying to get through this pandemic, but you don't want to wait to deal with any management or business management type of issues. You want to get ahead of them and get on them, because that's how you're going to make sure you retain the employees you have and be able to build the kind of company where other employees want to work. Which brings me to my third and final point here. I want to talk about workplace culture. Workplace culture is something that's kind of intangible. It's very hard to put a finger on, but workplace culture is how your employees feel when they show up for work every day. And again, going back to the point I made earlier, when employees are looking for a job right now, they're going out and they're looking around to see what it's like to work at a specific place. They're going on websites like Glassdoor and figuring out, are there employee reviews of that company and what it's like to work there. I actually get a lot of questions via LinkedIn. So I have people private messaging me on LinkedIn saying, I noticed you worked with this company. What was it like to work there? What's their culture like? So employees are super savvy. They already have an idea of what to expect when they go, to go work for a company, and they already know a little bit about the company, even when they get in that job interview. And even though, maybe not a lot of companies are hiring right now, really good employees never seem to have that much trouble finding a job, right? Good employees have to work somewhere. So you want to be the employer of choice. And it is worth the investment in building up a really positive, engaging, productive workplace culture. And there's a lot to unpack there about how to build that culture. And there's just not enough time in this session to do that. So I'm happy to have that conversation with you in another session where we just focus on workplace culture. But if I could touch on what Tanya is talking about, I'm hoping that one of your goals is to build a more diverse, diverse employment and attract more diverse employees into your company. And if that is your goal, if that is going to be your strategy for, employee recruitment, you need to understand that you have to have the right workplace culture to go along with that. You need to have a respectful workplace culture that supports the values of diversity, belonging, and inclusion. So it's one thing to rely on immigration and not even immigration, maybe Canadians who are already living here. It's one thing to bring in new employees and maybe start building a more diverse workforce. It's a whole nother thing to have the type of workplace culture that is able to keep them. So that's also very important for you to consider. So if you're going to put in that effort to attract and recruit employees, whether they're already living here or whether you're relying on immigration, you have to make sure you have the culture to keep them. And I'm happy to provide you with more details on that if you ever need it. And keep in mind that, again, good employees have to work somewhere, and you want to be the employer of choice, and you will be able to attract them. Several of my clients, especially the tech companies that I work with, have outstanding workplace cultures. And there's people lined up, literally, almost literally, they're not lined up because we're not allowed to be near each other, but figuratively, they're lined up with their resume, waiting and hoping to get a foot in the door of those companies. And that's the kind of company you want to be. That's the kind of organization you want to be. So if you want any resources related to that, I'm happy to help. So that was kind of the super quick version of what you need to do to be able to hold on to the employees that you have, and therefore also build up the type of company that's going to be able to attract new employees. I have a ton of resources that I give out often for free to my clients, like engagement survey questions, recognition survey questions, and things like that, and all sorts of other tools and information. So by all means, if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I will definitely respond to that.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Karina. I'm going to give you some clapping hands as well. Anybody else wants to do the same? Just down on your reactions. That was fantastic.
Thank you.